everyone, welcome back to Under Review. It has been quite a while since we have last talked to you, but a lot has happened. Big East tournament, we took away another championship, 20th Big East championship for UConn. Any thoughts?
They did what they were expected to do. Every year they come into the Big East, they're supposed to win it. I mean, this year we saw they had one loss to Villanova, and they got him back in the championship game.
It was a good start for a March Madness postseason, and they got to conquer Villanova, who they lost to before. And if you want to check any of that out, we have 3 packages from all 3 games. They have played from that, but we are going to talk about the best part of UConn women's basketball, and that is March Madness. So before we get into it, I'm Bri.
And I'm Grant Mangle. Let's get into it.
So after a lot of guessing, it turned out we were in that Bridgeport region, and our first opponent was the Mercer Bears, and that game went exactly how we primarily expected, 83-38.
It was really good to see everyone got involved early and often, getting Paige some more reps back in that starting lineup, which we hadn't seen her in the Big East tournament. Some people were starting to get a little worried that she would be coming off the bench in March Madness, but those doubts were erased really quickly. And yeah, it was a great tune-up game for the second round matchup with UCF.
It was a great opening statement of a game, but it immediately got a lot more competitive as we entered that round of 32. UCF faced University of Florida at Stores that same day. UCF won, and then we had to face them again. An old opponent, as they used to be in our conference, and they were definitely quite a little bit rough.
Yeah, I mean, a familiar foe. It's as they call it in football, it's a civil conflict. These two schools don't necessarily love each other, I guess. It was a short-lived rivalry, but now they were playing each other in March Madness. UCF really here for the first time advancing into the second round, and they really tried to out-physical UConn and try to make them uncomfortable, which really showed in the score being 52-47.
A very gritty team. We expected them to be aggressive, but I don't know if anyone expected the game to get as aggressive as it did, and it's something they kind of just had to work through. It really reminded me of that Baylor game last year, just a bunch of foul calls, whether agreed on each side, but you kind of just had to power through and play the game, because if you get caught up in trying to change a foul call, it's not going to change the game at all.
Yeah, it was really chippy. It was right from the start. We saw, forearms into the back, elbows flying, hitting Paige, just pushing, shoving all around, especially when it came to rebounds. The refs kind of had to start calling all those fouls, otherwise the game could have gotten even more out of hand.
I think it's great how we kept our composure, but I definitely think that a warning sign, we should not get in that much foul trouble, as Aaliyah Edwards and Olivia Ododa fouled out within the same minute. And although we were able to pull off a very slim win, those are 2 people that are kind of needed in those final seconds, and that leaves the forwards to only Dorka Juhas.
Yeah, we saw Vina out there kind of having to play a forward role, which she did a little bit earlier in the season, so that was good that she had that experience. But when it comes to rebounding late in the game, if we only have Dorka out there, that's gonna leave an issue. We need Olivia or Aaliyah out there as well to kind of anchor the defensive glass.
I think that game was really a lesson. I was definitely on the edge of my seat. We were not leading in the first half for the majority of it. We were just kind of very behind, and the entire game shooting 29.2%, not very UConn-like. We had the ability to score 137 points if we made all our baskets, which is crazy to think about with how low scoring of a game it was. So what do we kind of think of that for the future?
I mean, to win a game shooting under 30%, that's very rare. That's a credit to our defense for keeping us in that game. And a lot of them were missed easy opportunities. We saw a few missed layups from Kristen Williams and Caroline Ducharme. Those are just easy points that we have to have. Same with Olivia and Aaliyah down low. Just if you're that close to the hoop, you got to put them in. It was an off night. It happens, but thankfully we have our defensive backbone to go back on. Like we said, in the Mercer game, 38 points. UCF, 47 points. If we can continue to keep teams below 50, below 60, UConn is going to be in and win just about every game.
Especially those free throws, though. We were having such a hard time. Even in the Mercer game, we missed a couple. It's just There was something off the mark. I think it was 18 for 23 free throws.
Which it's not horrible, but especially when you're at home, you kind of expect to shoot your best. Which, if it's a neutral site, if we were down at Mohegan during the Big East tournament, you say, okay, it's a different venue, this and that. But you're in Gamble, you're where you play a lot of your games. You should be shooting your best there. And yeah, I don't know if it's nerves, if it was fatigue, or just an off night again. But coming into the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, you're going to have to hit your free throws if you want to win games.
I think although people are seeing this 29.2% and are concerned, I honestly think it's a positive statistic in the sense that if we can win a game shooting that low, we're obviously a team that can kind of grind it out in those situations. Having to be in a situation they got the lead kind of towards the end, which was not, the best, but I think being able to power through that is what is necessary for March Madness, and the fact that they didn't get down on themselves and were able to rise to the occasion, I think is extremely necessary in order to make it to that national championship.
You're going to have a close game at some point in March. I mean, if you get it out of the way now, or it's in the Final Four, or hey, you might have 3 or 4 close games. It's good to know that you can win a grind fest that really was, and just be able to not, without scoring the ball. I mean, you start to, not lose interest, but you get down on yourself. But they were able to keep the intensity and the toughness on the defensive end, which was just so crucial and to the identity of this team.
Coach Auriemma was asked about Nika Mule, Aaliyah Edwards. Together they had 7 points, but the impact that those two make on the court is unmatched. They bring such an energy, but at the same time, great composure. In a game like that, when there's so many fouls, they were able to stay calm in it, but also play an aggressive sense of defense.
Yeah, we saw Nika come in and really change that game early on in the second quarter when UConn was down 8 or 10 points almost at one point, and Nika came in. They threw her up in the front of the press, and she started trying to get steals and push the ball up the court like we know she always does. And Aaliyah, she was great on defense, taking charges, rebounds, just not getting out physical down low and letting her defender back her down. It was a really good performance on the defensive end from those two.
I think we had a really good rotation too. Although the second half we didn't see Mule, Coach Auriemma said it had nothing to do with her. He just needed a scorer, which makes sense in the moment. And then Westbrook and Ducharme we aren't seeing as much, but I think it was good to have that Mercer game because we were able to see that they can make really crucial plays. Caroline having those 2 steals to layups in a row, Avina with the 2 threes. They're great players, and just because they're on the bench now doesn't mean we won't see them later, and they're good people to be able to come off the bench.
You make a great point there. Just because they're not playing right now doesn't mean they won't be playing in the Sweet 16 Elite 8. We've seen this all year. The starting lineup changes a ton. People who get minutes changes a ton. Who gets the shots changes a ton. Like last night, Azzi had the most shots on the team, which we had seen that once or twice this year, but not necessarily every game. So it really depends on the matchup and what kind of game it is and who we need out on the court. It's really just all based on matchups.
UCF was an extremely aggressive team, and we needed to score points. So I think Mule could definitely play a lot of more minutes in a different game. Avina kind of said once, we all understand our role in the team, so being able to be confident in how you can contribute, then you might get more minutes in different types of games. But moving on, UCF I think shot a little over 30%, so we were able to grind out a win, but I don't think many teams will be shooting 30%, so.
It's survive and advance. You take it while you can, but I don't think UConn will shoot 29% again either.
Yeah, I hope not. I think this was a wake-up call for really what March is, and I think it's something that they can work on. They have a good amount of a break before Bridgeport. This is better than this of happening in the round of 64 and only having a day to turn around. So I think it's really a good learning point moving on to this weekend.
Definitely. All the few practices, go back, get a lot of shots up, try and get that confidence back up, and get ready for Indiana.
So talking about Indiana, they are the number 3 seed, if I'm correct. They're a pretty good team, but definitely different from UCF. From the Big Ten, they lost the Big Ten championship to Iowa. But with all these upsets, I really don't know who to say is the best or the worst. You can't really base it off the records these people have because a lot of teams have fallen out. I can name just a couple. Creighton overcame Iowa. Honestly, Big East shout out there. Jensen, absolutely insane to come back after transferring from Iowa, being a bench player, and then scoring the game-winning shot against the school you transferred from.
I mean, that's the dream come true right there. You get to put it to your old teammates, your coach's face, and show, look what I can do. I've proven you wrong.
It's really great to see for the Big East because I feel like Creighton put up a fight, but I feel like they really gained a lot of momentum after losing in that Big East tournament, and I'm excited to see what they're going to bring next year.
Yeah, I mean, the conference continues to get better and better. We've seen DePaul kind of close the gap. Creighton, Villanova took us down this year. They also won a game in the tournament against BYU. So the Big East is improving, and it's going to benefit UConn for the future.
We saw a lot of other upsets. Kentucky went down, who I thought was going to be maybe a difficult matchup for us, but we're not even going to face them. Oregon went down first round. FGCU overcame Virginia Tech. UNC overcame Arizona, who we lost to last year. Baylor went down as well. It's just kind of crazy to see so many upsets.
Yeah, it's March Madness for a reason, and at this point, everyone's 0-0 going into every game. Like you said, the record doesn't matter. The name on the front of your jersey really doesn't matter. Like Baylor lost to South Dakota. We never thought that would have happened. So it's all about peaking at the right time, and UConn's got to find that over these next few weeks.
Yeah, I think we have to remain consistent. Indiana is definitely a different type of team. They play in the Big Ten, you kind of think of like playing against Iowa. It's a very poised, play movement. They have a very disciplined at knowing the basics. They have everything down. So I feel like they're not going to come out with aggression. They just have great ball movement, great playmaking, and we really have to be really good on our defense.
Yeah, when you think of the Big Ten, you think of Iowa, and they score 80 or 90 points every game. It feels like Indiana gets up and down the court with them. Michigan, teams like that, they're putting up points, and it's not going to be a 52-47 game. We're going to have to win this one up in the 70s or maybe even 80s. If our defense is on, maybe the 60s, but we're going to have to bring on the offensive end, definitely, if we want to take them down.
Thing that might help us is Dorka Yuha's having transferred from Ohio State. She's definitely played this team a couple times, so maybe she'll have some insight. But Indiana is not a team we face too often, so I really don't know what to expect out of them, but I'm hoping they can overcome. Grace Berger, highest scorer, 16.3 points averaging, which is pretty good, but anyone can be the star of this game, so I just don't think we could rely on anything from the beginning of the season for these teams.
Absolutely not. I mean, Indiana's been a team that's been making a few runs in the tournament the last few years. They're trying to get over that hump and get to the Final Four. And, UConn, a team that's now been to 28 straight Sweet 16s. Coaching staff's been here before. They know what this game's going to be like. They know the intensity of moving on this deep into March, where only a few of these players have experienced that. And we've got some freshmen playing crucial roles in Azzi Fudd and Caroline Ducharme. So they're going to get their first taste, and I think the moment's not going to be too big for them. I think that they're going to be ready to go for this big game.
I think it's going to be really exciting. I know Coach Auriemma always says, even when we asked him about a future game, he'd be like, I'm just focusing on the next one. And I think that UCF game proved how we just need to focus on the next game. So Indiana really is what we need to overcome at the moment.
There's no guaranteed wins. They can't start thinking about NC State until the clock hits 0 and they've done their job in beating Indiana.
We will be in Bridgeport this weekend, me specifically, with Julia Gintoff. But we will have full reports from you there, and then hopefully we are back at the desk soon as we move on through March Madness. That is all from us. Thank you for watching. I'm Bri.
And I'm Grant Mangle, and hopefully we'll see you next week.